1833.
I don't know what they would agree with, Matt. Depends where you are.
1833, Tim Kennedy.
Yep, Tim Kennedy.
I think even in this country,
So they started
Again,
talking off about.
You can't talk about the old episode and the new episode.
I can do whatever I want.
No, I only.
So they
I have
started
to
talking about school
concentrate
shootings.
wholly on the
So they
new
started off
episode.
talking about school shootings. In
Oh,
country.
for Christ's sake.
But,
Okay, go ahead then, Matt.
I will give Joe some credit where, for once, he spoke ill of law enforcement.
Oh, the reaction of the police.
Because
like,
I don't think there's a lot of beating around the bush on this.
Yeah, they should have to
Well,
resign.
A
or
woman went in and rescued her own children
I'm just saying,
after being
normally,
detained
after
once.
being detained.
I'm just saying, normally in these scenarios, Joe gives law enforcement a lot of leniency. And in this case, he was just staunchly like, I don't know what the fuck happened here or how, but there was like gross incompetence clearly.
Oh yeah. As Simon led off the show with it,
Something went wrong.
and Tim's the guy that could train people to handle it better, more so than Colin Noir is a lawyer advocate. I think Tim is a hands-on like.
But Tim also
an
wants
operator,
like
yeah.
one entrance and exit. And again, like,
Fire
I don't
hazard.
know. Well, I don't know if
windows
the-
that could pop out. I
I
don't know.
have no fucking idea. But is that how you want your schools to be? You know what I mean? I don't think it is. But at the same time, if you're like the mother of some kid who gets shot at a school, I'm sure you just want it to be as safe as possible, you know?
I thought it was interesting how they said Keanu Reeves is.
Just kind of shut his mouth.
Yeah, like,
John Wick has
does-
nothing to
like,
say.
what are we gonna do? What are we
Yeah,
doing
but I also
here?
thought that was a weird flex. Like, oh, Matthew McConaughey can't really say shit because he's a fucking actor. He's paid to play roles.
No, what they're saying
I understand
is
what he's saying.
these go pay, do all the rules, but then don't come out and preach, you know?
It's a bit of a stretch.
That's like being like he was in Dallas Buyers Club. He can't talk about AIDS. Like I just don't. He's playing a fucking role.
I think it's glorifying because they also talk about music and video games, as we always say. And then he compared it in the weirdest ways, like, yeah, well, jerking off is not as good as having an intimate experience with your partner.
Sometimes it is.
He said that.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
That's how he decided to say instead of fucking my girl, and which I don't even get the analogy, but it got into you know
Of intimacy?
well, you're saying your partner is like just say your wife or like if someone came in and said this is my partner, no, it's your wife. Like both are intrusive, but the person said to him said you mean your partner, corrected it. And so vernacular verbiage. I think there should be a wokeness grandfather in. If you're born before 1980, just say whatever you want, and it's just maybe you have to wear a
And
little
you
badge,
show a card.
a little card.
Somebody calls you
So
on it, you're like, yo,
too late.
Kamar.
bigot for
I've
life.
been bigot for too long.
I will say this though. Mary and I have been together like 10 years. We've lived together 10 years. It feels and I haven't used partner. I don't like using that either. But
What do you call her?
my
Old lady.
girlfriend. But it feels weird. Like, you know what I
Well,
mean?
that's-
Girlfriend feels like we've lived like we.
The old ball and chain,
Well, no, like when I'm like, oh, my girlfriend. People are like, oh, you guys thinking about moving? You know, that's
or like it could be temporary.
yeah. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But it doesn't feel good for you to say wife.
He can't say wife.
Simon hates if I say the
Well,
wife.
he can't.
Wait, yes, he can.
No, he can't.
It's
We're
the law
common
of
law.
Canada.
Yeah.
They
We
are
are
married.
Common law married. So say my common law wife.
Okay.
That's okay. I'm okay with that. Say common law wife.
This is
There
a hate
has
cri-
to be
this is
some.
a- this is a
Hold
hate
on a
crime.
second.
If you
No,
don't take the same
hold on.
risk, and
Hold
spend
on
the
a
same
second.
money that I did,
I
and
know.
you
No,
have the right
Yeah, I
to
know.
call her
No,
wife,
no.
You don't get to call her.
Hold
that.
on.
Look
Stop.
at this
You
fucking-
definitely get to call her your common law wife, but
Oh,
there
okay.
has to be some distinction.
CLW.
There has to be some distinction.
For what reason?
For
Why?
you, just for you.
No, because they're two different things. One, you've like Kamar, who's so big on the law all of a sudden. That's like what you have to do. You go to the fucking court or wherever, and
Matt's a
you get fucking
libertarian, man.
married.
He doesn't
But
want the
you also
government to get in
realize-
his
you
business.
realize-
You get a license and you buy into the fucking system. And if you're not going to do that, then you're common
If
law.
you, need, if you
So
got to get
you're
a
pissed
license
that
to
I
get
haven't-
married, you need a license to get a gun.
I like this guy.
Yes.
You're just angry that I haven't paid the government. Is that it?
Sure,
What a weird flex.
sure. I want you to pay your taxes.
What
That's
a
what I want
weird
you to
flex.
do. I don't like when people fucking circumvent the rules. Is that okay with you?
Yeah, sure. Whatever. You're entitled to your opinion, Simon.
I think that's weird.
I think we have some free speech in this country.
But do you like saying it?
He loves it.
But
When I'm not
Wait.
around, he probably drops it like 15 times a
you
conversation.
say it when you're out and about, you're talking to a stranger that you barely know to reference Mary. In
I
general?
usually just say my girlfriend.
The old lady.
I don't like
always
when people say
that.
fiance.
I'll be back.
Fiance.
Yeah, I don't like that. Either get married or don't, and tell me once you're married. You know.
Fiance. Well, because that's just like a weird
Oh,
brag after the fact.
I pulled it right out of the thing.
That's what she said. It's just you're in this weird limbo. I mean, it's a special moment when you catch people who are fiancés for the individual because you're like, oh, well, we'll
You
see
mean
this through.
okay, fine. I guess that's okay if it's like maybe you get a year. You get a year of saying fiance, and if it's any longer than that, you have to either go partner or get married.
But if you say fiance, then you have to show a ring.
Unless you have really fat fingers.
Then you're not a fiance. I think that's more important.
You have to show a ring?
the engagement ring. Like that's initial commitment to your
Okay.
going to the law.
Fine. If you show a ring, then you're fine. You can say fiance.
He was talking about how fit like Europe is. Well, not Amsterdam, but Ukraine. And like if you think about here, do you guys think Canada's fit? I mean, I think it's much fitter than America. But do you think we're a fit country? I think we are.
No.
No. You think the majority of people are unhealthy in Canada?
I think that the winter provides, like, you already lived through some pretty shitty times. Everybody has who lives during the winter. Do you disagree?
I mean, that alone, I think the winter makes it difficult to stay fit and active.
Well, no, but it makes you good at being harder, I think, living through the winter, as opposed to like living in California where it's just sunny all the time. Like, you know what it's like to...
Easier to be active outdoors?
I think he's saying the opposite. I'm saying what you're saying. Like, if you live in California, you can go for a 5-mile jog every single day.
I thought we were just talking about like war. You know what I mean? Think you'd be
Fit
better
to
off
fight a war as
draw-
the Ukrainians are all fit because they're all ready in fight
because
mode.
they have been in fight mode for a long time now.
We'll say with Russians.
Well, and same with Russians. I
Same as the
guess.
Russians.
And again, I don't know. Is that true? Like, do Russians live their life afraid of war?
I didn't say afraid. I said ready to go.
The same. I'm sure they're at the same level as an American thinks about war,
Well, that's what I'm saying.
based on the propaganda. I thought it was interesting that Tim took Ukraine's side as well. Right before he goes into what he was there to talk about, which was Afghanistan. Which if half of what he says is true, it's such a joke that they're having these hearings about Trump, the January 6th hearings, because these are just propaganda to try to sway the election. Like, they're not going to arrest. No one's going to get arrested from this. It isn't actually hearing. It's just them displaying them talking about it for the third or fourth time. But the fact that they're not doing something like that for this, the botched, like, he said they were dropping babies into Constantine wire. You know which one that is?
Well, he said the Afghans were dropping.
That wasn't the Americans. Who
No,
were
people.
doing that.
The Americans occupying a country for 20 years and then just leaving out caused all this to happen. It is.
Yes.
If the Americans were there, this doesn't happen.
Well, something different happens. Yes, agreed. That doesn't happen.
So it was a short period of time, I guess. But it's amazing the footage they did not show us, because they just showed like the one guy falling off the airplane, and
Oh yeah, crazy.
he
Well, that just goes to show you what. And then you know what? The whole thing is fucking.
chaotic anarchy, apocalyptic madness was his description. And it's all America's fault for invading this country and then not doing. Again, it's like gun control. I don't know the way to get out of there, but I feel it's like either much
You can
sneakier and you don't announce it.
Well, they should have never been there in the first place. America is not like the fucking English Empire from the 1600s going out like and claiming land. Like, what are they doing?
And what's interesting
Well,
is
it went back to fighting Russians. They gave the Mujahideen guns.
I know the whole thing
Mujahideen
is
became the
crazy,
Taliban.
though, man. Just fix everything at home.
and think about if Joe Biden at all was competent. It's not like he just inherited Afghanistan from Trump. He was there for 8 years with Barack Obama and knows nothing, or like it's really, the news never covered it to the degree what he was talking about. Like people just being shot in the street. Like I never heard half the stuff he said. And the fact that they're not having a huge hearing thing is just another reason why it's broken. The democracy and
I don't get it though. At the time it happened, you were blaming Biden because Trump had said they were going to pull out, and then you said they didn't pull out quick enough.
I don't know how they should have done it, but they should have done it the way they did. And if Trump had been reelected, he might have botched it up all the same.
I think we can all agree.
Well,
Whoever's in
apparently
charge
leaving
fucks it up.
Afghanistan was not a possibility.
No.
If you went in and stayed there as long as they did and became part of that system, which they obviously were, there is no leaving at that point. You have now taken over another part of the world and you need to take care of your people, in air quotes.
And it just seems so like hypocritical of Americans now criticizing Russia for what they've only been there for like 100 days. Do you know what I mean? Like there's still a thing.
Yeah, but the Americans could
because we're Americans, what we're doing is right.
Yeah, but the Americans could at least argue that even the Afghans didn't want the Taliban there, right?
Even the Afghans, no one wanted the Taliban.
Was
but
it better under the Americans than under the Taliban?
That's not my
No.
point. My point was just
I'm asking.
I don't know. My point was simply
Not for
to what
girls.
Kamar was saying.
What?
not for girls?
It was, what do you mean not for girls?
Well, the
Women
reason we
living
were
under the
there is for
Taliban.
women's rights, right?
Well, this is what I'm saying. It was better
And I say that
when the Americans were there than when they left.
Simon, the Canadians were there, and we fucked up too. I'm sure there
Well,
are
everyone
people-
fucked up. The
Canadians
British, we
Yeah.
all fucked.
have stories about
We
this
all
as
fucked
well.
What I'm asking you though,
Yes,
is it better when the Canadians and the Americans were there?
for women.
Okay. Well, obviously
Probably not just for women, but
people who were like trying to throw their babies over barbed wire.
That's just
In-
crazy desperation.
Hold on a second. Instead of wanting those babies to be anywhere near the Taliban, that should tell you something. So it was better that the Americans were there. They should have
No.
just never left. If they went in there, they should have never left.
That's crazy talk because the Americans, you've heard that there were soldiers actually protecting poppy fields because the Taliban is anti-drug, and that was part of the problem. That's why they're actually there under the guise of forwarding women's rights.
Why were they throwing the babies?
hold on. Why is it women's rights? I never heard about women's rights once.
Why were
throughout
they throwing the
Afghan war.
babies?
That's the only reason they say that, to win the hearts and minds and help women weren't going to school. This, that, the third.
Why were they throwing the babies?
Because they have a better life in America than they will have there, where they are.
They were. That's what you think? That's what you think was happening?
Yeah. They
Oh
were
my
just
God.
giving up the child for random adoption.
Oh my God.
What do you think they were doing?
I think they were so afraid that their child was going to be murdered by the Taliban that anything was better. Take him to safety. Take the child to safety, not go get a better life in America. Like, that's not. I may be way off here, but I'm,
No, I
I'm
mean, I
pretty
don't-
sure I'm fucking right.
I don't.
They were going to get their baby back at some point.
Listen, I don't have a
They
kid.
were going to get their baby back. They weren't thinking like that, Kamar. I guess they were so afraid of the Taliban and what the Taliban was going to do that they were willing to.
Throw it in barbed wire. It's just madness and beyond
It's madness,
comprehension.
but I think that if we believe Tim Kennedy, I think that tells you how fucking terrible it must have been when the Taliban was in charge. Like, are you saying because they're anti-drug, it's okay that they just fucking murder everybody?
I don't know if they murder everyone. They were murdering people for being traitors with the Americans. It's so complicated and just they said they rescued 12,000 people in 10 days and left 40,000 behind. So those 40,000 probably did get murdered. It's just the way they exited is just crazy.
Listen, I am not saying that the Americans have the right to go anywhere, okay? But once you're there, you obviously can't leave, right? Like you see that now.
Well, Tim said in Sun Tzu, The Art of War,
Sun Tzu.
Sun Tzu, pardon me, outlines how to retreat. He didn't go into
Outlines.
it. He didn't go into it, like explaining what the philosophy is. But there is a way from retreating, and he even said aloud, "It's crazy that we haven't learned anything And it just, for me, exposes like complete loss of faith in any of the systems I thought would correct themselves from creating errors in the past.
Kamar,
not,
I guess
not learning from history.
I guess my question to you though is because your argument is obviously they shouldn't have been there in the first place. But so do you think that the U.S. should just stop intervening everywhere all the time, right?
No, my only argument is actually that there should be crazy hearings on this.
On Afghanistan and the
there's
withdrawal?
hearings on January 6th.
Mhm.
And I'll look like an idiot if this is coming down the pike. But if this just what he described and what we just experienced just goes, yeah, that Afghanistan thing, the whole system's broken and corrupt, because I think it's very important for if we were to move forward for this to never happen again.
But who goes to jail for Afghanistan?
I don't think anyone goes
No,
to
but
jail.
I'm asking you, in your opinion.
You want Biden to go to jail?
Trump and Biden, because Trump was the one who announced it, and
But
Trump
what
did
about
it.
what about Bush and Cheney? Like,
Of course, for starting it.
but that's what I'm saying.
And
is you have-
Obama,
don't
too.
you go back there
No,
because
but that's what he's saying.
It
There
would be-
should be hearings,
it would-
and everybody should.
no,
be
I'm
brought
fine with
in
that.
on
But
it.
I'm just saying is in these hearings, who are we going after? Because you can't just say we're having I mean, I guess you could say we're having hearings to figure it out, but you have to have a target in mind, as in like
who you want to be punished.
All
Is
of
that
them
the
would get a
idea?
This is what I'm
blemish
saying,
on their
yes.
presidency.
Yeah.
And it'd be a
Yeah.
slap on the legacy.
Yeah, you don't get to ride on Air Force 2 anymore.
well, I'm just saying because like Vietnam was also a fucking total clusterfuck. Was it
Well,
not?
I guess you have to do the same for everywhere they've invaded,
And then
because everywhere has been a clusterfuck, Matt.
he brought up an interesting point where people are saying, what message is Russia sending the world? Do they want to isolate themselves or whatever? What message did this send the world? Because he did like they will go into your country,
Afghanistan?
they will use you, whatever, and then they will leave you high and dry. Because it's not being mentioned on mainstream media in North America, but who knows what other people thought of this? Or if they were like, God bless those Americans, they did what they could. Or if people are like, no, they are untrustworthy, they'll just come and screw up your country.
I mean, I'm pretty sure that's the sentiment around the world for the most part.
Like, not here, though.
But I would imagine
no, we're
too
in
that
North America.
like you believe this media is biased. Every media is biased. The Italian media, the Chinese media, they're all
Causing
just
us,
like our media is trying to get us to feel a certain way. Their media is only letting in the things that play right for theirs. you know?
causing us not to know a reality or a truth.
Yeah, I just don't even think there is like real.
Well, how do you have media in this day and age?
How do you have?
Media.
Well, I think you. What do you mean? How do you have it?
Well, okay,
It's
you can't.
all just
What I mean is you can't.
independent.
You can't have a government-run media. That's pretty obvious, right?
No.
Yeah,
And then you
okay.
can't have media
Corporate.
run by a massive conglomerate of corporations, right?
That's
Because
it.
that's obviously pretty corrupt. We've
Right,
realized.
Yeah.
So my question remains: like,
Well, you would have
Independent.
but the problem is we
uh,
have a ton of independent
a
media right now.
government-run media, but that is run by a third party that is voted in.
Who's the third
like-
party? It votes.
Well,
that's-
again, you could do it. You could do it where it
The only
becomes
way is
much less
AI.
bias, you know? Or sure, AI, I like that too.
but who's programming the AI? This is such a form of influence, propaganda, the news. It'll never be just the facts.
Well, it's
There'll
funny 'cause
always be
they-
someone getting an angle.
We didn't mention it, but the first guest we did, the guy who went to Russia, I think they were speaking about how tough it's going to be moving forward to decipher history. Because like we think it's tough now reading hieroglyphs that we don't understand. Imagine having a wealth, like almost an abundance
Like
of
too much.
information where you have to sift through and go, well, who the fuck here was right and who was batshit crazy? I mean, I guess the advantage that you actually have is like, you know, we'll use Galileo as an example. Like at the time, people were probably like, yeah, this guy's fucking batshit crazy. But if you move forward 600 years, you can piece together everything and go, no, this guy was bang on. Like Alex Jones is a perfect example. Maybe 50 years from now, 100 years from now, they'll go, holy fuck, this guy actually had all the pieces.
Well,
And people were
listen,
calling him
It
crazy.
usually takes a lot longer than 50 years.
But
It
fine,
usually
100,
takes
whatever.
hundreds
But
of
you understand
years.
what I'm
Yeah.
saying
No,
is
no,
like,
for sure. And that's why it's so funny to get so like invested in anything, I guess. Like to take a hard stance on anything because you live such a short time. in history, you will most likely be proven wrong. That
Oh,
just
for sure.
is how it is as we progress forward. You think it's 5,000 years? It's probably going to be 25,000. I'm talking about when people came around, 25,000 years, and then, further, and 100,000. And then, like, how old is the fucking Earth? 3 billion years old?
I don't know. I'm an idiot.
I mean,
No, it's more like 11.
No, the universe is like
You're right.
I don't know.
You're right.
What,
No,
anyway,
you're right. The universe is 13.
yeah.
That's
Exactly. What are we
These
doing here?
not numbers
Dude,
that
what are we
exist.
doing here?
I'm asking like an off the hand question that has nothing to do with yeah, I don't care. Anyways, where were we?
I thought he was the most vulnerable at this point where he goes, life is hard for everyone. I understand that. I got a couple women pregnant, thought I had AIDS.
Yeah, dude.
and lost
Yeah, I
my
know.
first pro fight.
I know. I was like, whoa, this is out of fucking
I
left
got
field.
naked
Yeah.
and swam a
just got
mile
naked and
into the
swam
middle
out.
of a
Yeah.
lake.
I was like, what's going on here?
What?
Hey, you missed
hear
that
that.
part?
Tim Kennedy said
Yeah.
that?
Yes, he did.
It was such a.
Dude, I know. I was like, what the fuck is happening all of a
And
sudden?
are those all bad? Are those all equally as bad?
Dude, and the AIDS thing was thrown in so flippantly. Got a couple women pregnant, thought I had AIDS. I just decided to take a swim, Joe. The way it was.
Lost my first fight. I think.
Thank God the person saw me go out there naked and sent the Coast Guard out for me. Like, what a weird fucking.
Who says that?
I
thought
got a couple
AIDS.
pregnant, got a couple women pregnant. Thought I had AIDS. Did some fucked up shit with some kids.
In that order?
My mom died in the same.
Does that, like, in that order?
Got the women.
Because if
the women
it was
pregnant.
got AIDS, got the women pregnant, those kids are fucked.
I got a couple women pregnant. I thought I had AIDS, and I lost my first pro fight. So I got naked and swam into the. And he's human.
Yeah, he's only
He's
human.
human. That was very vulnerable. He backed up that you'd make no money in UFC.
In the UFC. I loved how quickly Joe deaded this whole conversation.
Well, he does. Yeah.
Joe
He's
will
on the wrong side.
will not partake in this conversation. Cannot. He's the highest paid. He's the highest paid fighter on the roster.
Do you think it should be a goal?
Oh my God, I never thought about that. Every time one of these people brings up.
When he's interviewing?
No, just
Oh.
in conversation. Every time somebody brings up like
Fighter pay. It's
fighter
it's-
pay.
How about those
and
Mac
Joe
keyboards?
is just like,
What are you gonna
can't
do?
say shit.
Nope.
It is
Yeah,
what it
how
is.
about those keyboards?
I'm telling you, it's right away. I'm out. I'm out.
Have you seen the guide on them? It's brutal. And I'm a writer.
I'm telling you, the
Have
second
I ever
fighter,
told you about Hawaii?
the second fighter pay gets brought up, he is out. It's like when
That
the
would be a funny skit.
when the Roadrunner used to disappear, there'd be that like puff
Yeah.
of where he used to be. Just
Well,
do
no.
recreations of Joe sitting there talking to people and then bring up fighter pay and him changing the subject.
immediately.
That'd be a good SNL skit. Enough. Well, I wonder if people watch Joe Rogan watch it, but that's a funny thing because it's reoccurring and all the things he does.
I mean, I guess in the end, it wouldn't be that hard to justify your pay as Joe Rogan because you're like, I have brought this thing to a place where everybody makes
And
more
Spotify
money.
gave me 100 million, so I'm obviously worth the draw. He has that.
Could he
going for
say,
him,
"I
too.
know I make more than most of these guys, and I'm just sitting on the side"?
I just said
Could
it.
he
He's the
say that?
highest paid. He's
No.
the
Could
he
highest
say
paid
that?
fighter on the
I
roster.
think as a employee,
No, he has to shut the fuck up.
he probably got an
NDA.
memo, no, something from what's his name there,
Dana.
Dana. Thank you, Matt. I don't know what's going on here.
Pink Marshmallow.
Pink marshmallow.
Do you think it's a realistic goal to eliminate violence?
No.
It's part of the.
What does that mean?
We're still animals.
Do you think it's worthwhile to try to pursue actions to stop violence from existing?
Well, they can't. We just decided that guns are okay, so obviously violence can't be taken away.
I mean, come on, in a world where, just if you're wrong, in a world where we can plug into some sort of matrix or like download our consciousness, maybe. Because then maybe you could get all that aggression out. Because like a video game doesn't do it. You know what I mean? The same way, like if you wanted to F1 simulate, it's not the same as getting out there and
Right.
actually.
But if you could,
But if
feel
you were
like
in
you're
there and you felt like you were duking it out, like,
or even more, if you thought like you were murdering people and you could get that rage out.
Sure.
I mean,
Elon.
that's
I
weird.
actually- well, no,
that's
got a
weird.
project
No,
for
no,
you.
because in
Yeah.
that one, they've proven, like with serial killers, they prove that it only gets worse, right?
Yeah.
So you only
You're
want to.
probably just giving him practice at that point.
Yeah, exactly. Guy ends up being
Yeah,
fucking
that's a very thin
Dexter
line.
type.
Who do you think is more tolerant,
Please don't fucking twist your mustache.
the right or the left?
Who is more sorry?
I don't think it works like that.
Tolerant.
I don't think it works like that. I think it's like,
however you want.
well, I just think it's the further you get both sides, the less tolerant. Does that make sense? The further from the center, if you're left leaning,
Right. Yes, because you end up in the center. Very good point, Matthew.
thank you, Simon.
I like that, and it circumvents what he wants from this conversation, which I also appreciate.
But I truly believe that. I think if you're like if you just lean slightly right, I think you're pretty tolerant. If you lean slightly left, again, I think you're pretty tolerant. I think if you're a hardcore fucking lib of TikTok lefty, you're probably an intolerant, insufferable cunt.
And you think it's equal on the spectrum?
I do, yeah.
I still
Kamar,
think
Well,
the
I
right's
think
more
it's
tolerant.
Hold on.
inherently equal because of the way it,
I'm just
good
saying,
and evil
Kamar,
has a
no.
middle
Kamar,
ground.
when you meet those asshole Christian conservatives, they're just as bad as those libs of TikTok. 100%. They want to take away your rights the same way these left wing people
Like
do.
if you believe in abortion, the idea of somebody telling you what to do with your body is inherently wrong, right?
Abortion is the most complicated one, though.
Okay, I don't want to get into abortion talk. I'm just giving you
You brought it up.
an example.
It's a horrible example, but yes,
it's not though, because
I
if you
don't
want to
think
be able
it
to do
is.
with your
Do you think the right cancel culture is ferocious as the left cancel culture?
Okay, well then
Cancel culture
ask
don't
that
exist?
question.
Well,
you know what I mean? There's a
wasn't
difference.
specific enough for you.
Yes.
But again, hold
it's-
on. I think it ebbs and flows because in the 90s, the right was the heavy cancel culture. They wanted to cancel rap. They wanted to put warnings on all the fucking music and
The
all the
war
TV
against
shows.
I
drugs.
just meant today.
The war against drugs.
I just
Well, again,
meant
again,
today.
yes, today, Kamar, it's probably the left. And there, you've baited us into saying what you
Yeah,
want.
no,
But
today it is the left.
The left
I
is more
agree.
tolerant than the right.
No, it is less tolerant right now than the right.
Okay, that's all I want to know.
I still think my scale works.
I agree. I think it's a great.
Yeah.
It
It's
might
a
be the
great analogy
smartest thing you've
and a
ever
fair
said
way to
on
explain
this
it.
program.
And Tim Kennedy feels like he's a centrist. So for that being said, Trump was a horrible president in that he did not like bring people together because and Trudeau's a bad prime minister because he's not bringing people together. And Joe Biden, he might be bringing people together because everyone now hates him. So it'd be like
That's a weird way of
the
uniting
doofus
people.
way to unite people, but we'll see.
You never know, though. You're right. Maybe the fumbling idiot kind of does bring everyone together in a way. Like,
And Trudeau was
Slightly.
so at the start. Like, remember, he was kind of like, I guess, kind of like a Trump figure where he was supposed to be different than what we had.
was he?
He came in. Yes, he was. He was supposed to be like
Transparent.
less politician-y.
Mm-hmm.
He comes in, he legalizes weed right away. He puts a smoke screen, you know what I mean? And then ever since
Literally.
then, he's just been, literally and figuratively.
Trying to
And-
create legacy legislation.
And ever since, been doing fucking less than great shit for the people.
Because I think as a leader of Canada, you really don't have to do anything. Save making the decisions, because people say if the Conservative Party was in power during the pandemic, no one would get money or whatever. NDP, everyone get too much money. We can't say that. But for the most part, we're Gucci here.
Yeah,
The
they don't.
government has to do anything.
The prime minister doesn't have to deal with like the nuclear football.
the only
He
the
doesn't
only
have that weighing on his shoulders.
hope and you'd think all the First Nation stuff would be sorted out. Like they'd have drinking water by now. But he's going after gender and stuff like that and truckers.
I mean, in his defense with the First Nation shit, there's never been a prime minister that's gotten that right. Or that's real. Like, am I wrong there?
Well, because I think to
I know that he
to nip it in
promised
the
a
bud
lot.
means you're kicked out because enough people go, I can't believe you just gave him $1 trillion or whatever the magic number would be to sort it all out. But he portrayed himself as being actually the guy that was going to do that. And on the first day to acknowledge First Nations children that were slaughtered, he went surfing. So he just exposed himself. He's adult.
Yeah.
Just to finish off Tim Kennedy,
Yeah, we
iron
gotta wrap
sharpens
this up.
iron, winning and losing teaches.
Yep.
And we knew about that. Everyone gets a trophy stuff. Would nip us in the bud. Rated, boys.
Tim Kennedy gets 2.
I give it a 3.5 just for the chunk because there's a bunch of fighting talk in this. But if what he described is the most accurate inside reporting I've heard about what happened in Afghanistan, it's interesting for people to hear it, and they should be outraged and ask for some sort of reckoning or questioning or I don't know.
I just was hoping this week we could come in here and just laugh our way through 3 hours or 2 hours, but instead it was all just fucking gun talk, heavy shit.
No laughs.
Yeah, I was, we are supposed to be a comedy podcast.
Got a
and
girl,
fuck
couple was
me
pregnant,
running.
thought I had AIDS.
Yeah, that was
Tossed
the
my
one.
first
Yeah,
fight.
great. The one unintentionally hilarious moment of the week.
That's a clip.
All right, well, that's a show. If you made it this far, thank you so much. We appreciate the shit out of you. Maybe you're willing to go one step farther. We have some socials. You can follow us on Instagram and Twitter. It's at JREE Podcast. You can follow Kamar on Instagram.
At Kamar Babar. Oh, the fact.
Yeah. You can follow me on Instagram at Floydy, FLOID with 5 E's. There's a subreddit. It's r/JREE Podcast. There's a YouTube channel if you want to watch the show or maybe some of the extra stuff we do on there. It's youtube.com/JREE Podcast. And then, of course, the Patreon. If you like what you heard and you want some more content, you can support the show for as little as $5 a month. Head over to patreon.com/JREE Podcast. For that $5, you get the post shows, the show of the show, we shoot the shit. You'll also get an episode of This Won't Age Well, where we go back, listen to old episodes, and do what we do here.
And I'll be sending you some nudes.
There you go. And Kamar will show you his cock. I think that's it. I don't really have anything else to say. You guys have anything in closing?
Thank you for listening.
Thank you for listening. I guess if you're on the Patreon, look out for that post show. And other than that, have a great week. Enjoy your weekend. And as usual,
Keep your eyes open.